Music, so often referred to as food for the soul, does not necessarily supply an equal amount of food for the stomachs of individual musicians. Peter Morris said tribunals have had difficulties in assessing where the entertainment industry fits within the workforce as far as wages are concerned. And he said he hoped proper recognition is given to the important role musicians play and that members will benefit from more equal pay levels under the new wage system. The 14 delegates will be discussing restructuring, plus the ABCs and other orchestras.
Their concern is for the disparity in rates payable to the members. They have a case before the Industrial Relations Commission to get greater uniformity of rates and supplementary payments for the membership, and their concern for employment with the ABC orchestras.
He pointed out that the arts and entertainment industry is one of the most labour-intensive, with more than 60,000 people working full-time. With 320,000 adults each week attending a live performance, this shows the increasing importance of music to the country's economy.
In tonight's NBN News, details of a record shark catch at Swansea. The 548-kilogram tiger shark may be the biggest ever snagged by a female angler.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
About 80 guests attended the conference, no doubt attracted by the prospect of hearing several senior politicians, including State Housing Minister Joe Shipp and Federal Housing Minister Peter Staples. It wasn't to be. The seminar was conducted by proxy, with local politicians taking the place of ministers and shadow ministers who declined the invitation in droves. Nevertheless, organisers were pleased with the quality of speakers from both political and welfare spheres, as well as union leaders and real estate agents. The seminar resolved to conduct more conferences targeting youth housing and the role of local government. The conference blamed state and federal governments for not having the policies to address the housing crisis and claimed that the state government had adopted a welfare mentality towards the homeless. Delegates from today's seminar will be appointed to attend and address a human rights homeless conference in Canberra later this year.
One which is designed under Order 71. And as I've explained to the cameraman from Channel...
I've sighted it from down here. Even now you have to look through those existing trees to see your place.
The grains is nice, I've got no complaint. That was taken at no harm.
That's good.
Life changed for Stephen Roseby in 1986. A motorcycle accident at Aberdeen left him unconscious for 2 weeks. When he came to, he learned he had sustained a punctured lung, shoulder injuries and a broken back. After 9 months in and out of hospitals and rehabilitation centres, Stephen set about rebuilding his life.
I wish it didn't happen, but it's happened, so I've got to live with that now, so that's it.
At the time of the accident, Stephen had already completed the first 2 stages of a carpentry and joinery course at Muswellbrook TAFE, so last year he went back to finish what he had started. Despite only having the use of one arm, he's been awarded a bronze medallion by the Master Builders Association for achieving the highest aggregate score in his course. Now Stephen is working to establish the family business SDR Plans, focusing on computerised drafting and plan printing. Stephen says the transition from being an apprentice carpenter and joiner is not too difficult.
A carpenter and joiner looks at the plans after the drafter, and now I'm looking at the plans before the carpenter. So it's just a matter of changing roles.
He learnt his computer skills with perseverance, sometimes sitting at the desk for 10 hours a day. A keen student, he's also studying to become a building foreman's clerk of works, which may eventually lead to a building business. But for now, Stephen is committed to plans and drafting.
That's looking good at this stage, and it's just a matter of persevering with it and seeing what comes through.
No, I'm not. I've got this awful pain in the chest. I can't walk any further.
Do you want me to call an ambulance for you?
Yes, please. Tell them I've got this pain here.
Yeah.
And it's real bad.
Okay.
It's a scene that's played out countless times every day. Yet another Australian falling victim to heart attack. But the National Heart Foundation says it's a scene that's too often played out all wrong, simply because of ignorance.
People, I think, are afraid to make a fuss, but they should recognise that when they do have central chest pain, which is like a crushing sensation, as if somebody's sitting on top of their chest, they should think, perhaps this is a heart attack. I shouldn't be worried about making a bit of a fuss and making a fool of myself. I'll get to the hospital, get somebody to do an ECG and make sure this isn't actually a heart attack.
So today in the busy Hunter Street Mall, the foundation staged its own version of a heart attack and played it out perfectly.
Could I have an ambulance, please? Hunter Street Mall, just near the walkway to the foreshore. Suspected heart attack.
Like magic, the ambulance team arrived, sirens blaring, and suddenly there was a collective sigh of relief amongst the crowd on hand as the experts took control.
Couldn't walk any further. Can you do something for me? Yeah, sure. Have you got any history of chest pain before? You had this before? Oh, yeah, I often get it, but it's usually pretty right.
Foundation's message from the exercise was awareness and, most of all, speed. In fact, the slogan for this year's Heart Week is "Every minute counts." But there's special significance in that message for Novocastrians after the release of some very sobering figures. Newcastle and Hunter have been identified as one of the state's 3 black spots for heart disease. Records show our paramedics have run off their feet dealing with heart attack victims.
We have about 800 heart attacks per year in Newcastle. In the majority of those, we feel that the new therapy that we're giving to dissolve the clot can be of some assistance. There are some people in whom we can't give the medication, but I think that we should be trying to consider that for old people.
But already the city is the target of an intensive prevention campaign. Today in Hunter Street, a Heart Foundation office was opened to coordinate an intensive program aimed at reducing heart disease in the region. At a meeting of 115 Public Service Association members at the Newcastle Workers' Club, support was given to a statewide strike next Thursday, and they vowed to immediately walk out if any Hunter jobs were lost. Workers voted to continue their work bans on anything relating to the axing of Newcastle, Singleton and Belmont offices, saying they will continue working there after the closures next Friday. They also pledged support for the Foster Parents Association after some of the foster mums claimed they were being adversely affected by department cutbacks. But the members turned down a resolution to cease work on ward and family casework files. They then marched to the Fax Regional Office in King Street and handed a placard to Acting Regional Director David Glazebrook, who said he would pass it on to Minister Virginia Chadwick.
Many workers feel that the existing workload is very heavy. The proposals, as we understand it, to delete positions in the region will mean that there will be fewer positions to cover the same amount of work. So workers are anticipating an increase in workloads, which itself is having a bad impact on morale and will have an impact on the level of service that can be provided to the community.
Tonight, plans for a $10 million retirement village in the heart of Newcastle. The project could see the old wool store building in Derby Street recycled.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
The planned retirement village will cover more than a hectare, including the wool store building. It will be bounded by Derby, Parry and Brook Streets and the Housat building, and will be developed privately by Consolidated Project Consulting, a consortium of 3 Newcastle firms involved in surveying, drafting and real estate. The proposed Parkway Retirement Village would include 50 hostel units, 39 serviced apartments, 46 self-care units and 18 penthouse apartments, all to be sold on completion.
We're trying as best we can to price the units within the range of the people who live in this area so that they hopefully would be able to sell their homes and be able to at least move in and probably even have some change left.
The consortium is following a recommendation from the State Council for the Aged to implement flexi-care at the village. So if residents become unable to care for themselves, services could be provided in their own units. Shops and medical offices may also be part of the village. The developers plan to recycle the old wool store building to avoid expensive demolition. However, the physical structure will change.
There's a large partition on the top of the building that will come down. We'll change that completely, as you see in the plan, so that it's got a new facade, a facade that will make it not look like a wool store, in fact look like a very exclusive retirement village.
Council is expected to approve the development within 6 weeks. All being well, construction will begin by August for completion in 2 years. Belinda Borissow, NBN News.
In just over 24 hours, the Newcastle Falcons are due to clash with the Brisbane Bullets in the opening match of the 1989 National Basketball League. However, there will need to be some rapid-fire negotiations between the Newcastle Basketball Club and the owners of the Falcons, Milai Proprietary Limited. After the Supreme Court ruled on Tuesday that the club has the right to the licence of the Falcons, a unique situation has arisen. The owners have a coach, a stadium and a team, but no licence to field a team in the NBL, while the Newcastle Basketball Club has a licence and nothing else, at the same time acknowledging the right of the Milai Group to play under the former agreement, something the club wants Milai to do.
As far as we're concerned, the team can be put on court. We've told Milai, we have told the league that we raise no objection until a new agreement is signed, which may take, some 3 or 4 months or even a month.
And if they don't field a team against the Bullets, what are the consequences?
They will probably allow 1 week and call a forfeit. If the team do not hit the court after that, they will be automatically disqualified from the league for 12 months. So there'll be no Newcastle team.
For coach Ken Cole, who is also the general manager of the Falcons for Milai Proprietary Limited, the position is all up in the air.
Well, at this stage, we don't consider that we have any rights to play, and we are waiting on the Newcastle Basketball Club and the NBL or the NBL to get back to us and tell us that we've got the right to play on Friday night. At this stage, all that we can do is say that we're ready, willing and able to play, and we'll be here ready to play.
General Manager of the National Basketball League, Bill Palmer, feels that if both parties can't sort out their differences, there is some danger to the licence being issued to Newcastle at all.
Clearly, both parties lose royally should the game be forfeited. And hopefully that is the leverage that the league has for them to sort out their differences, is that if the game is forfeit, Newcastle stands to lose the license and Milai then stands to lose any recognition at all, and they've got players there and coaches that are contracted to play nowhere.
Smart 3-year-old Record Dash is set to win his second race in succession in tomorrow's CJ Dennis Handicap at Warwick Farm. Record Dash returned to his best form with a solid victory at Rose Hill on April the 8th, and once again is nicely weighted with claiming apprentice Matt Pravado on top. In the second leg of the daily double at Warwick Farm, Gary Harley is keen on Eastern Cove, and in the trifecta which is on race 7, try 6, 3 and 1, Eastern Cove to beat Corkage and Rajamar. A classy field of 3-year-olds will line up in tomorrow's Courier Mail Classic at Doomben. The Melbourne Colt Nanatura and the Sydney filly Simple Taste are disputing favouritism in early markets. Nanatura was most impressive in accounting for a smart field of 3-year-olds at Randwick on March the 25th and has plenty in his favour tomorrow with top Queensland jockey Brian York in the saddle and the advantage of the rails barrier. Gary likes Simple Tastes and Aces and Kings to fill the other places in the trifecta, and the daily double should read Mirrorben and Chill Factor in the second leg. At Broadmeadow tomorrow, try Smoky Grey and Trace Bobo in the daily double, and for the trifecta, 7, 4 and 11, Trace Bobo, Gallery Star and Nuava. And they are trotting at Maitland tomorrow night with Our Karate Kid and Evandel tipped to fill the winner's circle for the legs of the daily double, and in the trifecta on race 6, try 3, Our Karate Kid to beat 7, Mormel and 4, Cheetah Boy. Hope you win $1 or 2.
Major Australian freight company IPEC is behind moves to upgrade Williamtown Airport. IPEC is keen to get the ball rolling because its licence to use Sydney Airport for overnight freight flights expires on January 1st next year. Chamber of Commerce President Peter Rundle says plans are also being considered to direct all regional air traffic through Williamtown.
We envisage freight as being good, and we envisage that there could be the potential there to fly regional airlines into Williamtown and then fly direct to Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane.
The system will work by planes flying into Williamtown, where passengers will link up with larger aircraft before heading on to major airports and reducing air traffic. Mr Rundle says the study into the feasibility of increasing the airport's use cannot get underway due to a lack of government funding.
We've been buck-shoved from state government to federal government and back again. We're finding we're getting tremendous community support, not only from the Newcastle region but also from the Sydney region for the upgrading of Williamtown, and we're hopeful that sooner or later that somebody's going to take notice of us and fund a conceptual study.
Mr Baird spent the afternoon at the Maritime Services Board's first ever quarterly briefing of customers. He formally welcomed the board's new director before taking the chance to defend his government's fuel tax. Mr Baird says the Hunter and Central Coast will be among the major beneficiaries of the anticipated $600 million to be reaped over the next 3 years. The Pacific Highway between Gosford and Taree will see more than $30 million in improvements above present expenditure. In other areas, the State Highway 23 Newcastle bypass will receive a $20 million boost, and several regional arterials will also enjoy extra expenditure. Mr Baird says $6 million a year will be added to existing allocations for highway black spots.
We're going to be spending $18 million a year over the next 3 years into improving black spots, roundabouts, traffic lights, widening, passing lanes. All of that will be incorporated in that program.
Although the black spots haven't been listed, the Minister said he is aware of controversy surrounding the Ironbark Creek Bridge on the Pacific Highway near Sandgate. It's been the scene of 2 fatalities in recent weeks. In the meantime, Mr Baird says the 3-cent tax is a one-off levy, which he promises won't be repeated.
If you look at the roads that we've got, they're without doubt the worst in Australia, and there's a backlog of road construction, road maintenance, which just has not occurred. So how do you overcome that? With the existing program, you're never going to make it. So the way of doing it is putting this levy on. It's going to be on for 3 years, and that's it. So that it's a way of catching up, of really returning to New South Wales the type of roads we so desperately need.
A RAF Chinook helicopter brought the family to safety, ending an ordeal which started when their 13-metre vessel began taking water in 8-metre seas 120 nautical miles east of Brisbane.
What are conditions like out there?
Pretty rough, very, very rough.
What do you call very, very rough?
Well, 160 km/h winds, that's pretty rough, so...
Bryce Quarry, formerly of Rathmines, was taking his family to Fiji, where he was due to lecture in commercial law at the South Pacific University. Word of the rescue quickly spread among his colleagues at the Hunter Institute of Higher Education.
As soon as we heard word that it was probably Bryce and we didn't know what happened, we knew there was a rescue operation. We've heard media reports that they are now safe in Brisbane Hospital, thank goodness. And everybody is quite relieved and the word's gone around pretty quick here.
Bryce and wife Lynn were too shaken to talk about the rescue. Although their 8-month-old son Stephen and 15-year-old Peter are safe, 2 smaller members of the family are feared lost. The ship's cats, Bosun and Fletcher, haven't been sighted. The family is in seclusion tonight. The yacht they abandoned was their home for 5 years and contained all their possessions.
Bryce actually comes from New Zealand. He built his yacht in Adelaide over a 4-year period. Then he sailed around Bass Strait and up the east coast of Australia. So he's well experienced. He definitely knew what he was doing, and you know, I'd just say it's probably one of those things.
With 3 days left in the month, the rainfall figures already tell a story all too familiar to Hunter residents. The Hunter Research Institute has recorded 211.8 millimetres of rain for April, almost double the average. But the month has been far better than for the same time last year, when it rained almost every day to reach a total of 434.6. So why does the season feel worse than any other autumn?
March was fairly wet as well, and leading up into April too. We've had quite a long period of quite wet weather, and I think people start to get a bit sick of it after a while.
For the last decade, the weather pattern has been fairly consistent. Weatherman Nat Jeffrey is expecting a dry winter.
Well, what's happened over the last couple of years is that the pressure systems have been moving over more southern latitudes than normal. So we have high pressure systems about 5 to 10 degrees further south than they would normally be at this time of the year. And we're getting the intrusion of tropical weather into New South Wales, a little unusual, and we're certainly having well above rainfall than normal.
Persistent rain means more than wasted leisure time. The NRMA reports a record number of claims for motor vehicle accidents over the past month, coinciding with road conditions. Elsewhere, building activity is at a standstill and industry generally has been affected. The Maritime Services Board is also feeling the effect. It just finished a $500,000 harbour dredging program. Now it's dredging again. Of course, there's a bright side to every story, and while most of us are waiting for that first sunny day, others are quite happy just the way it is. I'm Tom Hilston for NBN News.
In tonight's news, parents may take their children out of the Barnsley Public School unless arrangements are made by the Education Department to improve drainage of the school grounds.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Laurie is visiting Newcastle tonight for an after-dinner speech organised by a local accounting firm. Laurie says the business world has become very interested in his ideas, particularly on winning and succeeding.
I've been asked to speak on winning, and it's a pretty complex subject. But because I've been associated, I suppose, with all the world record holders Australia's had in swimming since 1973, I'll speak about those people, my direct experiences with those people, and what I think constitutes winning, what's important about winning.
Laurie says the public speaking is a great hobby because he loves socialising and is planning a number of projects beside poolside coaching. He says he has been approached by some big companies to develop Australian sport, while at the same time he is producing a record and a book series. However, Laurie says there is plenty of talent in the Hunter area when it comes to swimming.
There are swimmers everywhere. I mean, there are great swimmers everywhere. Like Donna Proctor was, of course, the Commonwealth record holder.
He took time out to mention Central Coast swimmer Mark Eichen, who won nearly every event he contested at the recent Australian Schools Championships.
I see Mark Eichen. I admire him for his ability, for his potential.
But he has to bring that potential out. No one else can. He has to develop it.